Dr. Naomi Murphy will join me in a second. Now, Dr. Naomi is a forensic psychologist. Lots of different aspects to this. Well, you might have seen a little shot there of the moment of Lucy Letby's arrest. Hopefully we might be able to play that again for you in a sec as I'm talking. But so when the police attended her house, they said that she had a messy, disorganised but childlike home. So things like loads of stuffed animals on her bed and a child's duvet cover. A lot of her friends were saying, or a lot of her colleagues were saying, was quite childlike in a lot of ways. But as I bring Dr. Naomi in now, Dr. Naomi Murphy, a forensic psychologist, there is also talk of things like narcissism, like Munchausen by proxy, like having a hero complex, and whether or not any of that can be used as mitigation for, frankly, the most appalling and heinous crimes that anyone can actually imagine, whether that will go on to have an impact on her sentence. Dr. Naomi, your views from what we know so far as to whether or not Lucy Letby is evil or insane?
I think the bottom line is, having worked with, many people over a 20-year period who've killed, is psychologically healthy people do not kill. People who murder have generally experienced profound abuse and neglect themselves during childhood, and there's a difficulty in how they cope with their emotions. So the crimes are heinous, but this is a very disordered response to somebody's own, probably, difficult experiences. Not that that justifies them, but I think it does offer an explanation.
What is Munchausen by proxy? This is something that raised its head in court, so I'm quite keen to find out a bit more about it.
Well, we now tend to talk more about factitious disorder, which is about feigning symptoms of illness, and by proxy you would do that by feigning symptoms of illness in a child, and I don't think that this applies in this case, because the intention does appear to have been to actually kill the children.
That's interesting. OK, right, so you think that it wasn't about bringing attention onto herself, it was about, fundamentally, from what you understand of this case, about actually straightforwardly killing children? Because another element to this was this supposed hero complex. Apparently, Lucy Letby had a bit of a thing for a married doctor on the ward and would allow babies to crash or actively try to kill them in order to try to resuscitate them with this guy that she fancied, and then they could grieve together via messenger afterwards. So you don't think that maybe there was just some singular desire to bring attention onto herself then?
I think there are a number of reasons why healthcare professionals may act out in this kind of way. I think the two that stand out to be most likely are, I do think there probably was a wish to be seen as the most comforting, supportive nurse in the unit, which would give her some kind of special status. I think there's also the possibility that she was envious of the family units and a wish to destroy or damage the parents. And my reason for thinking that is there's preoccupation with the families. She was searching for them on Facebook. She was taking photographs of cards that she sent to them. These are all signs that the relationship with the parents themselves was actually a key part of the incentive to kill the babies. Apparently,
whilst the babies were fading out of life or had just died, she was going into the rooms with the parents and saying, do you want me to bathe the baby for you? Do you want me to take pictures at all? Basically being a bit too busy. And they described her as well as being quite gleeful, almost. Excitable, I think is the right word. What's that about?
Well, I think one of the things that's quite striking is how close together some of the murders were and the attempts to murder, because quite often when people murder, there's a sense of remorse and a crashing sense of guilt and shame afterwards, and then a gradual build-up to that again. But actually what's really striking about Lucy Letby is the fact that she murdered one child and then she would have another go at murdering another child very soon after. So that would suggest some kind of thrill at taking life.
Some kind of thrill of taking life. I mean, there's even a thing where she went, killed a baby just before she went on holiday, and then went away to Ibiza, I think it was, then came back and killed immediately afterwards, and actually sent a bit of a jokey WhatsApp saying, I'm back with a bang. What do you make of what the police said about her property? They said it was a bit a bit messy and disorganised, right? But then also that there was a childlike element to it. Lots of cuddly toys on the bed, a child's duvet. While she was in the dock, when she was bothering to attend, she was wrapped in a comfort blanket, had some kind of cuddly stress toy. Is this all pointing towards, do you think, big childhood psychological issues here?
To me, in over 20 years of working with people who kill and commit the most serious violent offences, I haven't met somebody who doesn't have that kind of profound history of trauma. And I think to be cruel or to kill, one has to have experienced quite profound cruelty oneself. Now, it's hard to comment on the bedroom because that could just be something that's being blown up into a bigger thing, but it's people who've had abusive experiences during childhood. Some of those people do end up a bit emotionally stunted at the age at which they were abused themselves or neglected. And just to add that obviously the vast majority of people who are abused or neglected in childhood do not go on to commit acts of murder.
Now, as yet, no remorse, no public remorse, OK, no admittance as yet of these crimes. Do people who are, let's say, extreme narcissists, which is something that's, again, been levelled at her, you might want to explain a bit what that means as well, by the way, but do these people admit to themselves what they've done?
I think the people who commit these kinds of crimes end up being quite disconnected from their emotional self and being very compartmentalised and finding it easier to just switch off and detach from. It wouldn't be possible to kill a child without being able to do that, to be honest. So there is something about her experiences where she's had to find a way, I would suggest, to cope with her own distress, and she's done that by shutting down and switching off, and that's then made it possible to do these heinous acts.
Do you think she'll be enjoying this attention?
Parts of her may well be enjoying the attention. I think it's interesting that she's actually had quite a lot of media attention anyway during the course of quite a short career, actually, as a nurse. She'd been featured in The Standard, been interviewed about her job, been fronted to fundraising campaigns. And I think if there is a motivation there to be the most comforting and supportive nurse, I think that narcissism may well be a part of that. And by narcissism, I mean a sense of a grandiose need for attention, which develops when people feel very defective, not good about themselves. So they end up then seeking out, trying to have this special status. And in Lucy Letby's case, it seems like this seeking out of special status has come at a massive cost to other people.
Just very finally with you, Dr. Naomi, does any of that in any way, you think, make her less culpable for the ultimate actions, which are 7 murders and 6 attempted murders?
I think the reality is, with anyone who's killed, there's a jigsaw that you can put together, and you can understand why they've been so disturbed that they've acted out the way they have. That doesn't mean she's not responsible for her actions or doesn't need to take responsibility for them.
OK, well put. Dr. Naomi, thank you very much. That was got a lot out of that. Thank you, Dr. Naomi Murphy there, a forensic psychologist. Yeah, it's interesting as well.